We will not be held responsible for any hearing impairments or damage caused to you from excessive exposure to this sound.
Unmuting. So here it is, September 14th. What year? 2012.
Hi.
How you doing?
Fine.
Sean, you are who?
I'm Clint.
Oh, that's right. And we are Sackheads Radio tonight. We have a lot on the show.
Hang on a second. Hang on.
Okay.
You're real monotone tonight.
I am.
And I don't know why. Are you punchy?
I'm a little bit punchy.
You know what? How's about, let's try, can we start the music over again?
Do you really want music again? Do you want to do a typical radio introduction?
No. No, but let's try something like, there we go. Hey, happy Friday, September 14th. I'm Clint.
This is Sean.
And welcome to Sackheads Radio.
That was a much better introduction.
There we go.
No,
we should try something like that next time. You're just way too... And you should be excited because the Boston Red Sox, did they not beat the Yankees 2 out of 3?
I believe they took 2 out of 3. They did definitely help your guys out, though.
Yes, Oakland is on fire again. They took 3 out of 4 from Anaheim and won 3-2 over the Orioles tonight. So they maintain the top spot in the wild card race behind Texas. Texas still can't shake them.
Yeah.
Texas 3 games ahead in the AL West.
I've said it all year. They're playing good ball. It's just hard to compete with them right now. They're a young team. They play hard every night.
And they're having fun.
Yeah.
They have fun. They're loose. And they're loose. They're playing good fundamental baseball.
Well, it goes back, and the two trains of thought when you're in the playoff hunt is sometimes it is when you're young, you're either really overly tense as a team and you're not able to produce, or you're completely loose and just ready to go. And it seems right now they're loose and ready to go.
You seem preoccupied. Are you reading something?
I am. I'm just saying hi to our friends in the chat room and making sure that our audio is all set and ready to go. And
we have friends in the chat room?
We do. We have a couple of friends already. Our good friend Sagittarian, who joins us most weeks.
Hello, Sagittarian.
Is in the chat room, so there's our shout out from her. I'm sending out our little Twitter thing that we're live on the air and ready to go with our phone number, which happens to be 347-205-9399.
Not a big deal. I'm a little tired. My shoulders are a little stiff right now. I just flew in again.
Really?
Yeah.
You do have that windblown look to your face.
I shouldn't because there is a cockpit.
I can almost picture like the whatchamacallit, it'll be a shoulder blown in the wind gently. You know what I'm saying? The scarf just flowing behind you, but the problem is I
actually had the feather like in Dumbo, just the feather that I hold, and it.
I was picturing Snoopy, so either way, I'll take it.
Either way, is it because of the nose? I don't appreciate that.
No,
I don't.
Listen, just because your nose is big.
Just because I
big nose,
paint it red and I pretend I'm flying up against the Red Baron.
It's great to have you here. I'm glad you can make it in time for the show. I love it when you come running through the door 2.5 minutes prior to air.
Oh, it's awesome. My adrenaline's all pumping right now.
Yeah, and then by the second half, you're usually passed out and ready to fall asleep, so it's perfect.
But I have coffee, so...
We have Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
We should be good.
What?
What?
I don't care. I'm proud. We have Dunkin' Donuts. For those of you who don't know, I have an affliction with Dunkin' Donuts. Some people would call it a sick obsession. I would call it obscene obsession. It's just where I grew up, and it's what I love. I'm stuck on the other coast.
You grew up in Dunkin' Donuts?
Pretty much.
Okay.
That's not an exaggeration.
I'm
stuck on the other
not
coast.
Judging you.
We do not have Dunkin' Donuts. So my good friend over to my right, some guy named Joe, Hey, Clint, you should really get some Dunkin' Donuts flown in, and he did, and he made it and brought it for the show, and I thank you for that. That's pretty awesome.
I'm pretty sure that's close to illegal. I don't know, like maybe they're going to convict me of smuggling Dunkin' Donut coffee or something.
No, because you know what? It's almost like medicine. It's okay because it's for a better cause.
Okay.
So,
I
what do we have on the list tonight?
all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Mostly the Middle East. I do want to say this was this week marked the anniversary of 9/11. I know we had a moment of silence here in the SACHED's office for the victims of 9/11, as well as for our first responders that perished there.
Yeah, it goes by every year, and I was old enough to remember it, as you are.
I could tell you exactly where I was, exactly what I was doing, and exactly what I ended up doing that day.
It's definitely our generation's Pearl Harbor. It doesn't lessen Pearl Harbor by any chance of any stretch, but it's a somber day, and you remember the heroics of the people who were running in when they knew odds were that building was coming down, or there was a chance of it anyhow. And the first responders in New York, as well as the Pentagon, and then the heroes of Flight 93, who were able to overcome and avert a third tragedy, or a fourth, depending on how you want to count it. And it, if nothing else, I always take away from it the amount of heroism that was shown that day, how great of a nation we are to be able, how we respond. And I always remember the bucket brigade at the trade centers, and just people with hands putting debris in buckets looking for survivors, and just the amount of people that showed up there just uncalled, like nobody asked for them. They just showed up. A lot of the iron workers and construction workers on top of the firefighters and police officers who didn't wait to get called. They just showed up. Same thing in the Pentagon and in Pennsylvania as well. And for me, to sum it up, that shows America at its best, that it can be one of our darkest hours. And we put aside our politics, we put aside our differences, and come together for our people. And, it's somber and it's upsetting. And like I said, I still remember it plain as day. But I always think of that aftermath, however short-lived it was, of just how people realize that it's not about our petty differences, which sometimes we have. It's not about our tangible objects. It's about us as a nation. And however brief it was, and this nation realized it then. And I'll tell you, I get choked up every time, and even right now, a little bit. So to those people who served since then, who were involved, to the victims of family, I thank you. And I'm sure the rest of the country does too.
You were out on that coast when that happened, and
I was.
It was a horrible day for all of us as a nation. I don't understand why September 11th is not a national holiday. And you and I were talking about this.
Yeah.
Earlier this week. We have Pearl Harbor Day, which we should.
Yep.
I mean, we never forget those who gave their lives. And why is September 11th? It's been 11 years. Well, how is this not a national holiday yet?
And I'm sure people don't think of a holiday like like you're out celebrating. It's a holiday of remembrance.
Absolutely, and it should be why are schools open? Our children should understand what that day was about, and not some watered down version of what the day was, but exactly what that day was about, and how many people lost their lives, and how many heroes were out there that day. Not that we weren't separated into, or compartmentalized by race or by political affiliation or by even religious denomination. At that point, we were all Americans coming together, getting through a national tragedy, regardless if you were in Washington, D.C. or San Francisco, California. And, I remember the flags being out and how we all came together as a nation at that time, but then pretty quickly we forgot. I mean, our nation had returned back to God. We were friendly to each other. I remember passing law enforcement officers on the street and firefighters. Everybody always loves the fire guys, but passing the cops on the streets and having people thank the officers for their service.
Yeah.
And saying thank you myself for the service, in addition to our men and women in uniform in the military and so forth. And it died out very quickly again, and it's sad. So I think it's good to have a holiday like that in order to remind the nation and to teach our next generation what this was all about, so that we don't repeat it, so that we can remember, so that we can be on guard and always be prepared, and also to honor the heroes, both civilian and military people at the Pentagon, as well as our civil servants who gave their lives.
Yeah, I said it before. It just, those days afterwards showed to me what makes this country so great, is that we can have our differences of opinions on so many levels, politics, religion, what have you, and people realized it. And, the sadness was always there, but it was an undertone as immediately after the attacks, and the bravery and the willpower and the can-do and the resolve of our nation just exploded. And people who probably never thought about it before were, like you said, saying thank you, and just remembering. And like I said, for us, for me, for my generation, that was the first time we were really attacked. We were attacked at the World Trade Center in the bombings in '94. There was the Oklahoma City, but on that scale, to have it live on TV unfold for the second plane to hit the tower, it's breathtaking and upsetting. And like I said, even now, it still bothers me. So we had our moment of silence. Those folks will never be forgotten. They will always hold a special place in our hearts. And, we do need to spread this message. It needs to be taught how it happened. We need to keep that history, and we owe it to the memory of the people that perished and those that have perished since, who worked at the Trade Center and other places and have health issues as a result, and everything down to the search dogs. For me, it's one of those things. There were canine handlers and hundreds of search dogs that went in there without a thought, and it just shows you how amazing it is. So our hats are off to you, as they are every day, as they are every year, to the heroes of 9/11, the victims, the families who've found a way to move on since, and not let go of the memory, but make something good out of it. We thank you.
I can't say it any better than that.
Okay, good. So, moving on, and I apologize if I got a little mushy there on you, but that's just how I feel, so freaking deal with it. Later on this year in the day, there was the attack in Cairo and Benghazi.
Whoa.
And we're going to get into that.
What are you doing?
What?
You're like in hour 3 of the show.
We only do a 2-hour show.
Oh. Yeah,
No. I was kind of throwing that out as a teaser, like this is coming up later on. I do have to, we are going to have a victim on an entirely different scale, calling it a little bit, and we're going to talk to that. But we have a couple other things first.
We're going to talk to that?
We're going to talk about that, not to that. Why do you have to do that to me?
I just want to know what you
mean. You have to point out every minor shortcoming. You kill me.
I just trying to understand.
No, I
don't know.
So did I tell you about, I got into an interesting Twitter conversation with Keith Olbermann.
You need to tell this story. And then, if you tell this story, I get to tell, because we each have a census or a survey story.
Yeah.
I'll tell my survey story.
Okay.
You tell your Keith Olbermann story.
All right.
Okay.
So I want to say it was 9/11. Earlier in the evening, I was just kind of scanning Twitter, and for a lot of people that don't know, I do majority of this Twitter, Sean. And so if you can't understand half the stuff that's coming out of it, that's the reason. So I saw Keith Olbermann responding to another guy, something to the effect of, there's your American pride. And he was referring to a New York Times article, op-ed, written by this guy, Eichen. And I don't know much about him. I did a little bit of research, and then I got bored because he's just a complete Democrat buyout. And the article, well, let me rephrase. So I said to him, hey, what is America, because we were talking about national memory. I said, hey, what does the pride of America has felt after 9/11 have anything to do with about politics and about this article? You know, don't mix the two. And he posted a lengthy article. He said, here, read this unless you're too afraid or something in that regard. This is Keith Olbermann now, the guy that was on MSNBC and used to have a television show before he got so batshit crazy. But
used to be. What happened to him?
I think I don't know. I don't know enough about him. And I only follow him because he's such a super left progressive that I want to keep tabs on him. So you keep your enemies closer, you know what I mean?
Right.
So he responded, read the article unless you're afraid of something in that regard. And before I read the article, I said, hey, you want to have me read something and respond, that's fine. And I'm paraphrasing. I don't have the exact words. It's in my Twitter history. You can find it. But don't come at me like a child. This isn't like a high school dare. If you have something that you think needs to be out there and you're looking for a response from the other side, I'll be happy to look at it, but don't treat me like a child. So his only response was like 20 minutes later, and the article went on to say how essentially how President Bush had a lot of responsibility for 9/11, that he ignored a lot of the warning signs. What the article didn't tell you is that Clinton had a lot of information, and I'm not saying he should have acted, no more am I arguing that President Bush should have acted, and Clinton did nothing with it, but that was completely left out because the author is a complete leftist, and that was my opinion after I read it. I didn't know anything about it until afterwards. I kind of got the opinion when I was reading it, but whatever. So, moving on. So I read the whole thing, and a lot of it was assumption, half-truths, sort of lies, and just a lot of interjecting his opinion into it. You know, there was one presidential release that was a briefing released that was part of the 9/11 Commission report. Other ones from the event have never been released. They're still classified. He's saying that he's had the ability to see them, blah, 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 but he's not saying who, he's not saying where, he's not saying why. He's only given snippets, to which I call BS immediately. Because either there's somebody in this White House, again, who's leaking classified information, which...
That would never happen, would it?
Or he's making some stuff up based off of what he's heard and, again, half-truths. So I pretty much respond to that. I said, hey, blah, 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 blah. And his response was, did you read it or were you afraid your head was going to fall off? Huh. Now, I think my response was the size of my neck, my head's never going to fall off my body. I have a neck like a tree trunk. It's not going anywhere. So that was kind of my response. Then I just got it, said, if you want to get into name calling, that's not the conversation I want to have unless you want to talk about your affinity with the New York Yankees, at which that point I will eat you alive. No response there. And then I said, I'll be happy to discuss this. It was late at night. I was getting ready to go to bed because I had to move this week. That's always fun. I said, hey, I'll discuss this in the morning with you. You respond, and I'll look for it. I pointed out everything that was wrong with the article. It was weird. There was no response. So this guy who was baiting me and kind of calling me out like a child, I proved my points to him, and he had nothing. And it's amazing that when you change the argument to the truth and not just what they want to see on the left, they just don't want to. They don't want to engage you anymore, or they want to make accusations that other things are going on that have nothing to do with it. So that was my Keith Olbermann story. Wasn't that big of a deal, but I couldn't believe that he was acting like such a. I could believe it because it's Olbermann, but man, what a d-bag he is.
D-bag.
Douchebag.
D-bag. Okay. Oh yes.
He just.
Does it surprise you though? I mean, really, because you were like, now hang on a second. You were like a kid in a candy shop, though. To be fair, you were all giddy and
I was, because he had no response. And this is Olbermann. Him and Maddow are like the two biggest left progressive TV hosts. I mean, there's Chris Matthews. There's a couple other ones who were bought and paid for by the Obama administration. However, he usually keeps up a good fight. I've read his other stuff on Twitter when he fights with people. And normally what happens is people who are against him get eaten alive by his fanboys, that I like to call them on Twitter. He's got like 375,000 followers. It shows you there's probably 370,000 mindless people. I'll give you 5,000 just doing what I do, keep tabs on them. That's why we follow them.
Okay.
He usually has fanboys that immediately engage and just attack. They'll try to get people banned because they disagreed with Olbermann, so they'll start exaggerating it, and they'll complain to Twitter. But it's just amazing to me that this guy who's so outspoken, has so much going on, is so sure of what he says all the time, had nothing to respond. So that was my little touch of Olbermann this week. It wasn't that big of a deal. I got a kick out of it. I did call you like a little boy. Bragging, I believe, is the word that I would use.
I would say, yes, but you were giddy. I mean, you were bragging, but you were very giddy.
And then I happened to text you and said, hey, I just got a political phone call. It was kind of funny. And you told me your story, which I want you to share, but they're very much alike, you and I, which is scary.
They're extremely similar. And as we go through this, please feel free to put in your response because so the survey company calls up or whatever, and sir, would you mind taking a short survey? So I indulge just because it's funny to me sometimes. And one of the things they ask is my race. And I said, I'm American. And this seemed to vapor lock this young man. It was like a short, so that I could see the light bulb maybe. Do we have that sound to play? Because it was like two neurons trying to fire, but there was no connection really. And it was like an old light bulb, not one of the new awesome ones made in China that we have to buy. Yeah, no, it wasn't that at all. So he says, okay, so are you Caucasian? And I said, I've never been to Caucasia. I don't even know where Caucasia is. Have you ever been to Caucasia? And again, it was like silence. And he said, well, I don't. I said, look, I'm American. I've never been to Africa. I'm not African American. I didn't come from Portugal. I'm not Portuguese American. I didn't immigrate anywhere. I was born here. I'm American. He didn't like that very much. And I refused to yield. So I went
Naturally.
on. So I went on to the next question. Now, but you had a similar response.
So he asked me what race I was, and I immediately said NASCAR.
You're such a smartass. Why can't you just answer questions? At least I had an honest answer.
So I said NASCAR, and then he just kind of paused and went through his little list, and he's like, American, African American, blah, blah.
He said American?
No, he didn't. Sorry. Caucasian, African American. And I said, well, I'm white. Well, actually, I'm a little pink most days. And he just kind of paused. I said, you don't have pink? And he said, no. And I said, so we went on, and he said, are you Caucasian of Hispanic event? And I said, well, to be completely honest, I said, I'm American of Irish descent. I bet you don't have that little checkbox in there, do you? And again, there was a long pause.
Because he was reading. He was looking for it.
I said no.
Hoping he had it.
And so he didn't know which way to go, and he kind of eventually went, well, so what should I put? And I said, that's fine. You know what? I'll be Caucasian. I don't mind being pigeonholed.
Nice one. You know, why do you mess with him? You know it's not his fault. The guy just has a job to do.
Because...
Why do you do that? I don't mess with people like that.
Really? You do it to me the entire 2 hours we're on the air every week on the Friday Night Fiasco.
The Friday Night Fiasco. So go on now.
Like how I test drove that?
That was nice. Is that gonna be a tagline on the show?
I have no idea. Probably. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I like that.
Okay. So what else did your guy ask you?
Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember. You go first.
No.
What?
You started. You stole some of my thunder.
No, I didn't. I just...
You totally did.
No, go with your story, please. Continue.
No, I don't know.
Making for great radio right now. So that's awesome.
I was asked political affiliation.
I was.
And I told him, I said, I am conservative libertarian. Mm-hmm. And he vapor locked.
I had no idea.
No clue.
Well,
so basically he says, well, okay, so what party do you most identify with? I said, yeah, right. Why? I said, how about the Tea Party? And I love how you just took a big sip of coffee when I said that. And this guy was so locked up, and I finally said, look, I don't think that you're properly equipped to deal with a conservative, non-politically correct individual, so I'm going to go ahead and just end this call.
Well, and I'm trying to remember the rest of my call because your story makes me laugh that I almost forget some of mine. So I'm just going to move on.
Well, they asked you political affiliation. What did you tell them?
They asked me political affiliation. I said, are you a Democrat and Republican? And I said, well, neither really. I said, I'm conservative. I wouldn't say I'm a Republican. As a matter of fact, then I went into your little line. I said, did you know George Washington warned us against the two-party system?
Nice work. Anytime you get a chance to educate somebody.
And he said, no, I didn't really know that. And I said, yeah, you should look that up. So then he asked me, after we went through that whole rigmarole, he said, where do you get your news from? And he started listing them off, MSNBC, NBC,
yes.
CNN. And I turned around and I said, Sackheads Radio? And he kind of stopped. Because I figure I got to promote the show whenever I get a chance.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And he's like, okay. I said, is there a checkbox in it? I said, no. I said, can you put other and then write it in? He said, yeah, actually. I said, do that for me, would you? And he did. And then I told him the website. I told him he should check us out. Because at the end I did. He's like, well, you seem pretty politically informed. I said, well, I should hope so. I do a political talk show. And he was like, oh, that's really cool. What's it called? I said, I'm not telling you. Because if he couldn't figure it out by the amount that I pushed our show on his little survey, because I'm hoping whoever ran that survey, at some point it shows up and they go, who the hell are these two? And then my mission is accomplished. I've reached yet another listener.
Nice work.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Another thing that I like to do, and I've actually done this before, is have, those door-to-door salespeople?
Yeah.
I'm being politically correct. You know those door-to-door salesmen that come?
Yes.
I apologize, folks, for being politically correct.
War and women started by Clint right here.
Yeah. Hate him so much I have like 7 ex-wives.
Sorry.
I think they all have a war on men.
Just those 7.
So they come and I say, I stop them in their tracks. Good evening, sir. Good morning, sir. I'm here to. I say, hey, start. Hang on a second. I will listen to everything you have to say, and I will most likely purchase whatever you're selling if you can answer one question for me. And of course, at that point, they're all ears, right?
Yes, of course.
And I say, okay, what is the name of the book? Who was the author? And when was it published? That our founders referred to and appreciated, and that our economic system is based on. If you can answer that question, then I'll go ahead and listen to everything you have to say. You have my word. And I will probably purchase it unless you're selling like a $10,000 vacation. And 95% of the time, that's not a scientific number, but the overwhelming majority of the time.
Wait a minute. You can throw a number out and have it not be scientific?
But I said that it was not scientific,
okay.
So that's okay. Most of the time, they just turn and walk away.
Has anyone ever got it right?
It's great. Nope, not one.
Wow.
I've had people try and guess. Yeah, the Constitution.
No.
Yeah, no, but that's good that you're thinking about that and know what that is. And then I tell them.
How
I let it off the hook.
Right. Forget it. Go ahead.
I say, hey, it's Wealth of Nations. Adam Smith, 1776. Founders read it, loved it, and I suggest you read it, especially if you're in business environment, sales environment. And I close the door.
And then you release the hounds.
No, that's only if they don't want to go away. And it's really just one hound. He's my German Shepherd. His name is Kriegschund, which means warhound.
I'm pretty sure his name is just
Scout, but Kriegschund sounds so much more awesome. He goes around a little German accent. He's 16 weeks old.
Well, wait, wasn't he born in this country?
Yeah, but it's just kind of one of those things they're embedded with.
So
I talk to him in German.
The funny part is he talks back to you in Italian. It's weird.
No, he talks back to me in German. He refers to his crate as the fatherland. It's weird. I don't understand where he gets it from. control.
Thank God we stick to the script. You know, I'm glad.
Oh, yeah, completely. Hey, I did learn another interesting fact.
What's that?
Did you know that the Constitution had a page 5?
No.
Yep. It was the transmittal page.
Right.
Signed by George Washington, basically transmitting the Constitution and giving instructions for how delegates should be chosen in the various states to ratify it. And I saw an article on Yahoo earlier, and I cannot find it again. I've been searching for it. I cannot find it again. So I don't know if it's true or it's not true and they took it down. But the article I read on Yahoo said that because this is the 225th anniversary of the Constitution coming up on the 17th, I believe. Happy birthday, Constitution.
Happy birthday in 2 days to the Constitution.
That page 5 has never been publicly displayed before, and that the archives is going to display that page for 1 week.
Well, if you're in the...
I saw that. I don't know if that's true or not because I cannot find it again. I will continue to search for it on breaks, and if I have the information...
If you're listening to us and you have the means to go by and see it anyways, doesn't matter what part of it's on display, do it.
Oh, yeah. If you can go to the National Archives and see art, that's one of the things I want to do very, very soon. I want to go and may actually have an opportunity.
How about this?
I may actually have an opportunity next year at some point. I think you and I should take a trip out to Washington, D.C. next year and take a look.
We'll do the show live on the road or something.
That would be a good idea. Or, yeah, absolutely. maybe we'll do a film at the archives. I don't know if they'll let us in a building with a paper sack over our head.
Like a Denny's? We'll just do it from a Denny's. We won't even tell them what's going on. We'll just call in and do the show from a Denny's.
While drinking a Yoo-hoo. Because if we're at a Denny's, we have to drink a Yoo-hoo.
Why wouldn't you?
That's what I'm asking.
Absolutely.
Hey,
anyone in the next 7 days that takes a picture of the Constitution themselves and posts it to our website or submits it via email, we'll send them a signed picture from Sackheads Radio.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So if you want, submit a picture of you in front of the Constitution. Has to be within the last. I'll give you a month. I'll give you a month long. So from the 1st of September to the end of September, take a picture of yourself, email it to us, fanmail@sackheadsradio.com, or in a few days you should be able to get back up on our forums at conservativeoutcry.net. We'll do a hand-signed picture.
And if you're drinking a Yahoo, if you're in the picture with a Yahoo and the Constitution in the background, I will send you a show-worn sack.
Perfect.
Because we do wear paper sacks on our show, at least for a couple minutes at a time. So we have show-worn sacks. It's kind of one of our weird things that nobody really cares about but us, probably, but I think it's hilarious.
I think it's a riot.
I'll send you an autographed show-worn sack.
So fanmail@sackheadsradio.com. And if you go to our website, sackheadsradio.com, you can find the link to our forums and to our Stitcher download and all the instructions. If you download Stitcher and enter the right code word, you can enter to win $100 for a gift card. So we're going to take a break.
I'm going outside.
We come back. We're going to talk to a victim who was attacked by the left, and he's going to tell us our story. So we'll be back in about 2.5. Sackheads Radio.
Sackheads Radio.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. We're fortunate enough to have our friend Vanessa do our news briefs. If you like her news briefs, she is a voiceover talent. Check out Platinum Vocal Cords. She has over 15 years radio and voiceover experience. Graduated Northwestern State University with a liberal arts degree. Don't let that scare you, folks. She is a true sackhead. Please check her out. Again, that's PlatinumVocalCords.com. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to HomefrontHugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you. Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch.
conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the wingnut leaders throughout the world to give our men and women of the armed forces a job, as well as all the anarchists, terrorists, and Occupy folks that give our men and women in uniform on the home front, firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and first responders, job security here in the States as well. So thank all you wingnuts out there. This is Sackhead Clint saying have a good day.
Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
3, 2.
I love how you're still doing the countdown. We discussed previously that it's completely unnecessary.
Hey, now welcome back, our two professionals, Clint and Sean.
It's that. On Friday evening. If you want to call in, the phone number is 347-205-9399. I won't plug anything for a while, I promise now.
Well, good.
I'm going to take a phone call real quick. We do have Mr. Politics is on the air, and he wants to talk about the Constitution. Hey, Mr. Politics, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I just had a quick question, too, before we go into that. Like, I saw in the show description, you said something, and I apologize if you already covered it in the show and I missed it, but in the show description it said something about, like, the law enforcement investigation of the movie. Like, what movie were you referencing there?
Sorry, I was referencing, you know what, I realized that after I put it in, I was referencing Innocence of Muslims, and I actually did reach out. I didn't get a response, so I'm probably not going to go with it tonight, and I should have updated it. But I got a couple reports and haven't yet confirmed it, so it's not 100%, that the L.A. Sheriff's Department somehow were investigating the director or the movie production company.
Oh, really? Huh, that's weird.
Like I said, it was fleeting. I did put a call into them. I haven't gotten a response yet, so I'll probably have to go with it next week.
Okay, all right, yeah, gotcha. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be one of those, like, wingnuts, like you referred to in your ad. You know, I'm more into, like, the ANCAP philosophy, but, you know, I'm a fan, I guess, of, like, the original Constitution, like, from a theoretical point of view, you know, if we had it, you know, I mean, it would definitely be better than what we got now. But looking at, like, the idea of the Constitution, I mean, it seems like there's, like, this big movement to, like, you know, for people to really support the Constitution, but often I don't think we distinguish between, like, the original Constitution and what we have now, and how, you know, what we have now is, like, this twisted, you know, I don't want to use the word, but, like, messed up document.
I think we have. Oh man, that's such a huge topic.
Yeah.
I think
it's showing itself.
Yeah, I think I think the interpretations are definitely twisted, because I believe that, and I don't know really what viewpoint you're coming from. My personal belief is that the original intent of the Constitution, if we're going to live by that, which we should, when we interpret that Constitution, we need to go back to the original writings. The Federalists, what were our founders saying at the time, what were the debates, the Anti-Federalists and the Federalists, and give our interpretations based on that, because I don't believe it is a living, breathing document. The founders said that, hey, when you're trying to interpret this, look at its original intent, and they put a mechanism in place for amendment. And then I'll go off on a tangent about the whole state senator, the U.S. senators being elected by popular vote now, and that amount, I think it's the 17th Amendment.
Yeah, the 17th Amendment's pretty dirty. I mean, but there's been, like, a lot of other dirty stuff that's happened, you know, before
absolutely.
And then, you know, and after that, you know. But as far as the Constitution is concerned, I mean, I think it's important to go back and, like, read the Federalist Papers. I think it's important to read, you know, a lot of the writings and stuff at the time. But at the same time, I mean, like, we have to be careful with that even, because, I mean, as great a guys like TJ was and some of these other guys, you know, you also have, like, people like Hamilton that were, like, twisted fucks, you know, I mean, like, you know, Hamilton probably loved Barack Obama, you know, and so I think that we have to realize that, like, some of these people were sick people even back then. And a lot of people like idolized like all the framers, you know, and all the founders. And it's like most of the founders ended up dead before, you know, there even existed a country, you know, because they're actually shedding their blood for what they believed in. And a lot of these framers were like dirty rat bastards, you know.
Well, not all of them. I think what
not all of them. I just said a lot of them. You know, not all of them, of course.
Individuals, and hey, you know, you also have to take into account that the times are what they are. I mean, you could say that about a lot of our politicians today. So
I'm curious.
I would say that about most of our politicians today too, though. You know.
I'm curious as to were there any founders you think were exceptional?
To TJ, you know, I think that like his only shortcomings were that he only had like the knowledge and experience of his time, and that was his like limiting factor. And like we've got like, you know, quite a few hundred years on him, so it's easy to like point back and judge him and say, you know, well you were wrong about this or that or whatever. But it's like I think today if he were alive, you know, and he had experienced, you know, all this time, he'd probably have very different views than even he had then, you know, and realized that he couldn't trust, you know, a lot of people to run the country the way they did. Like Washington, though, I'm not a big fan of Washington at all.
Why not?
I'm a big fan of Hamilton. I'm sorry, why not?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was only like, you know, a few years after the ink on the Constitution dried, and a lot of good men, you know, lost all their property or lost, you know, their families or lost their lives, you know, so that they wouldn't have to be subject to the British Crown, and especially that tax thing was important. And Washington just decided that he was going to start paying for stuff with you know, an alcohol tax, and he wanted these whiskey producers to start paying tax not when they even sold their product, not like a sales tax, but the moment it was produced into existence, they were expected to start paying tax on it. A lot of these guys didn't even sell their alcohol; they traded it, so they didn't have money to pay the taxes on it. And when they said no, you know, he wanted to send an army out and kill these people. So I don't think that.
You talking about the Whiskey Rebellion?
Yeah. I don't think he had the founding principles in mind, and I think that Hamilton was whispering some naughty things in his ear, and I think he listened to those things, you know. But
no, I'm not disagreeing with you about Hamilton. Washington, though, I think Congress levied that tax, and Congress in our Constitution had that right to levy that tax, and I think Washington understood, because the Articles of Confederation, and you sound like you're very well read on this topic, and you sound like you have a similar viewpoint as me on the Constitution, but I disagree with you about Washington, which is okay. I think that he had we're coming off the time where we had the Articles of Confederation, and we realized we needed something stronger. Congress did have the authority to tax, and they exercised that authority.
Well, wait. Where did they get the authority to tax? Like in the original Constitution, the one that he was operating on, where did they get the authority in there to tax?
It's in the powers enumerated under Congress. They have the authority to tax.
No, actually, they could only tax all their taxes and their entire tax relationship had to be between the federal government and the states. They had no direct taxation power, and those powers didn't even go into effect until 1913. So they were they were
out, right?
Yeah, for the income tax, and there was no. They just created the alcohol tax, but there was no provision for that prior to that, and there was nothing in the Constitution that even mentioned that, other than like I think lending money was one way that they were allowed to fund their operations in form of interest, and that's how the Treasury or that's how the government at that point paid a lot of their bills, is through the Treasury Department that would make loans to small businesses and charge interest and get that money back, or make loans to banks and get paid on that. But at the time, I think you might be incorrect. I don't think they had the power of direct taxation.
They had the power of direct taxes, and it should be apportioned among the several states. But it was included according to their
that's up to the
numbers.
states to tax those people, though. It's not up to the federal government to tax or collect. What they would do is they would say, okay, we want to pay for X, Y, and Z, and then the states would end up having to like kind of equally split that bill. They were responsible for taxing their citizens, the people that lived in that state, not the federal government. The federal government didn't have any power. There was no IRS. There was never anything in the Constitution to create the IRS or anything like that. You know, I mean, this is all stuff they kind of just.
under Article 1, Section 2, where it talks about the legislative branch in the House, it says that the representatives and direct taxes, meaning it's the federal government, the legislative branch, that can levy the direct taxes to be apportioned among the several states and included within the unit according to their members.
Yeah, but it's not until 1913 where the federal government even has any kind of relationship with the citizen directly. Again, what that's speaking to is the states. The states, could obviously pay the bill, and the federal government could ask the states to pay for certain things. The federal government had no right to go after a single individual. It was just the states that would collect those taxes, and through whatever means that they had decided in their states, where Washington directly went to people producing whiskey and said, we're going to collect this directly. And so I think it proved my point is that they didn't actually have the legal power to do so. So we started off on a bad note right there, but things got, conscription. Where does it say in the Constitution that conscription is allowed? And they were doing that right away. It's kind of crazy. These guys violated our rights so quickly off, and that's why I guess I'm a fan of the idea of the Constitution, but in practice I don't think it's practical, because that document was supposed to create the smallest government, smallest military the planet's ever seen, and where are we today? The biggest government, richest government, largest military the world's ever seen. Something went wrong.
Hey, Mr. Politics, can I levy a guess here? Are you a libertarian?
Yeah. No, I said in the beginning, I subscribe to the ANCAP philosophy, anarcho-capitalist.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, I used to be a libertarian, though. I went kind of from Democrat to Republican to libertarian to anarcho-capitalist. I had a little bit of a walk.
And let me ask you this, and I have a caller on hold, but if we didn't have the direct tax, I'm not saying I agree or disagree, how else do you think we could have survived? Just curious.
Well,
are you on a boat right now?
What'd you say?
Are you on a boat right now?
No, I was actually my hot tub at the sprinkler.
That is so great.
Well, that's the first on the show. Well, talk about bragging. You just made that water swirl nicely in the background, just to rub it in a little bit more. I jest. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The way that they were collecting taxes prior to that is, again, through the Treasury. Treasury would loan out money to states or banks or to whatever, entity you wanted to borrow the money and then lend it back out. And then the interest paid, that was one way. And then the other way is suppose, back then they weren't really building roads, but suppose that they wanted to build a road, just a good example. What they'd end up doing is they would vote on it. You have to remember, too, back then the senators, they were actually operating pretty much out of the state house, and they weren't elected by popular vote, like you pointed out. That was way later, 1913, that they passed the 17th Amendment. So what they would figure out is the states would decide basically what the federal government was going to do, and the federal government could only collect what the states would agree to pay. So federal government could say, well, we want to build this and this. If it gets approved, then proportionately, each state's going to have to pay X, Y, and Z, and so they would get their money that way. And the states had various ways of paying, but it was primarily sales tax, and there were a few other various tariffs and stuff. But it was pretty minimalist, and it's so they were getting along just fine, but it was after the Revolutionary War. They were in a little bit of debt, and they wanted to pay that off, and Hamilton had this fantastic idea that we could just directly tax, and we could create this alcohol tax, and it was supposed to be a sales tax, but it ended up being like a production tax because they knew that it was mainly the Scottish and the Irish that were producing massive amounts of alcohol, and it was mainly around the East Coast. Yeah, surprise, surprise. But a lot of those guys.
It wasn't on the West Coast back then.
Yeah, for sure. But I meant surprise, surprise, Scottish and Irish that were the big producers.
I know. Trust me. Growing up an Irish kid in Boston, I'm well aware.
Yeah, I'm Scottish, so yeah, we like it. But the thing is that a lot of these guys, they never even sold their liquor. Their liquor never even made it to a sale. Like, they would trade it. Like, if your wife wanted a dress, you trade a gallon of your finest moonshine for it. A lot of people paid their rent alcohol sometimes. And it was as good as cash in a lot of ways. I mean, everybody was drinking. Like, temperance hadn't kicked in yet or anything, so it was a very popular commodity. And it took some skill to make the finer stuff. And so you could trade it. So the federal government knew that a sales tax wasn't going to work, and they weren't going to be able to collect. So they would say, like, the moment it comes out of your still, which is still a law today, by the way, the moment it comes out of your still, you owe taxes on it.
And I'm a little disappointed in myself that I hadn't seen that point of view before, but I tend to want to agree with you right now. I usually think I'm pretty astute in looking into those types of issues.
Well, a lot of people don't realize either that Washington didn't win he didn't win the Whiskey Rebellion. He ended up having to back down, and he had to pardon all the guys because there was just so much anger against it.
Yeah, now that I did know. The one thing I want to say about Washington though is I'm not disagreeing with you about Hamilton. I'm not a huge fan of Alexander Hamilton, but none of our founders were infallible. I mean, these were men. We obviously had a lot of their own issues going on. They weren't perfect men, but I think Washington was a man of principles, and he was a man of ideals. He did have. I don't think we would be a country today without Washington and his leadership and the part he played in the Revolution. Or he may not have been a great military tactician by any stretch of the imagination.
I was going to say that. But, that's another misnomer too. He wasn't a very skilled military man.
No, he was not. But his personality and his principles and the man he was able to pull people together, and he was able to keep his soldiers within the ranks even through tough times. Especially when they marched on the Hessians in Trenton and so forth, was able to get people to re-up. He was a leader, and he was a principled man who was respected by all. And I think that's something that you can find even in the original writings. And so while our founders themselves weren't infallible, I think their ideals were. And that's what our Constitution, our Declaration, our Constitution is based on. So I tend to support those original ideals, even though the men themselves were not perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when I look at like the framers and stuff, I don't look for really like the style or like stylistic differences or whatever, because I mean we kind of have that today, right? I mean we have these politicians that they're likable enough. And maybe they know how to get some things done, but I look more for like, what can't we supply today? And a lot of that's like principle as far as elected politicians. I mean, there's plenty of guys that, try to run for office and stuff. They may have some principles, but, guys that actually get elected, and especially the president and stuff.
The people.
Yeah. So
and one thing.
No, I was just going to say the people with principles are often overlooked for popular people.
They are, and one thing I liked about Washington is he warned us against political parties and factions. He warned us about that. He warned us specifically about the two-party system. As you know, he had Jefferson in his cabinet in his first term, and he bumped heads.
Well, they had to.
Hamilton. Yeah.
They had to, because that was the demand at the time, is that, whoever you ran against, that became your vice president. And now it's like they can't even make the guy they ran against in their own party in the primary, that they're vice president. I mean, could you imagine like Mitt Romney making like Ron Paul as vice president or Newt Gingrich as vice president? I mean, that would never happen.
No, not at all.
It's
and
like
Adams
they can't even. Yeah, they can't even do that.
No, I agree with you. And Adams was Washington's vice president that he ran against, but he had Jefferson in his cabinet, and he and Hamilton butted heads all the time. And so I know Washington had these forces pulling him in two polar opposite directions. They kind of had the same end goal in mind as far as liberty and a free country and so forth, and maintaining this country for us and these ideals. They had a couple different ways to go about it, and I agree with you about Hamilton, but I think
what would have Jefferson been like if TJ wasn't holding him in check? I think that's a good question worth asking.
Well, he didn't have Thomas Jefferson around his second term. Jefferson walked away.
Yeah, I mean, why was that?
Because he was butting heads with Hamilton. He and Hamilton would have major conflict.
Hamilton was a statist, man. He was a statist, and he was an authoritarian, And I think people forget. They think that the level of tyranny that we have today in government, they think it's like this new thing. But I think if we go back and really look at the past and understand our history, I think sometimes we paint it off better than it really was. And Hamilton, I think, is a really good, shining example of that. I mean, I'm not sure that Hamilton. I mean, I always tell people
we have so many founders that had good principles and good foundation for this country, especially when you go through and you read the
I know. We had some guys with principle for sure, and the document wouldn't have looked the way it looked.
Today, I think that was more prevalent back then, whereas today, I think what's more prevalent is we don't have men and women of principles up there, and I think we flip-flopped. So while it certainly wasn't perfect back then, I think it was a whole lot better than what we have today. Our liberties were safeguarded much better in the system we had then than they are today.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know that it was the politicians that did it, because, I mean, if you look at stuff that they tried to pass even back then, like the Sedation Act, I mean, how ridiculous was that, The kind of stuff they were trying to do was pretty insane, even by today's standards. It's the only difference is that when the state pushed that hard, the people pushed back 10 times harder. They were like, fuck you, we're not going to listen. As a matter of fact, this could cost you not only like your presidency or not only your career or whatever, but maybe your life. I mean, the people wouldn't take shit off of these guys. And then today it's like, let's be civilized and let them take everything. And I'm not saying violence is the answer, but
no, we were more of a republic then than we are today. Today, everybody says, "Oh, we're a democracy." We're not a democracy. We were never meant to be a democracy, but we have been pushed more in that direction, especially with the passage of the 17th Amendment. We kind of took the whole state's representation right out of the whole mix by having two popularly elected chambers. But I would love to have you on another show and to discuss all this stuff further. We have a lot more material to get into tonight. Would you be willing to call back again on another show?
Oh, sure. And if you don't mind, if I could just listen, because I'm just listening on the phone.
No, please do.
Why don't you shoot me an email, Sean, SHAUN, @sackheadsradio.com, or email the show, and we'll set up the time to have you on, and we'll have this be a topic. And
absolutely, and I want to look more into the Whiskey Rebellion because I have not looked that much into it, and I learned something from you tonight. So thank you. I always like learning new things, and I have something else I need to research now because I have OCD with that kind of stuff.
Hey, Mr. Politics, thanks for joining.
Take care of yourself.
Enjoy your hot tub, all right?
Oh, yeah, and thanks for having me on. Take care.
Thanks.
Take care.
All right, and now we have to change tone from the Constitution to a victim, and then we're going to take a break. Rooster, are you there, sir? We only have a few minutes. We're going to take a break because we haven't even touched the Middle East, and we only have an hour left.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Rooster.
What's going on, Rooster? How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well.
We missed you last week. We had a show in prime time just so you can call in without staying up till 2:30 in the morning.
And he had pneumonia.
How are you feeling?
I'm on the mend. I was actually in the hospital. My son had a hockey tournament up in Philadelphia, and I probably should not have taken the trip. But
did they eventually kick you out?
No, actually, on the way home, we ended up having to drive straight to the hospital. So I spent a couple days there, and now I'm back.
And you're on the mend.
Clint,
and that's why you're ill,
sir.
How does it feel to be looking in the mirror and talking to yourself?
It's awesome. I'll tell you, I love to learn new things and to have a new perspective put in front of me because I'm one of those people, hey, if there's evidence, show me the evidence. I like to research it myself. And if I was inaccurate on something, I want to research it and correct that. And, in this case, I think I was. I need to take a look at the Whiskey Rebellion and see and get some good information. But I think he had some good information. I disagreed with the gentleman about Washington. I'm a huge fan of George Washington because of who I believe him to be as far as principles and so forth. And, yeah, Hamilton was kind of a nutcase. I disagree with a lot of what Alexander Hamilton's done, but I'm a big fan of Washington and most of our founders. But the Whiskey Rebellion and that tax on alcohol is something that I'm intrigued. I need to do some research.
Mr. Politics is probably about 2 minutes into the call, and Rooster said something to the effect in the chat room, and I'm trying to see if I can find it, but how does Clint feel to be talking to himself or something? No, he said, is that Clint on the other side of the phone?
Yeah. No.
Well, I didn't catch the caller's name, but I heard that he's still on the line. So excellent call. I actually liked listening to that. So
I love when intelligent people call us because all I have to do is sit here and close my eyes and let Clint talk for a little bit. So it works out well for me.
I had the pleasure. I logged into your website a couple days ago, and I had the pleasure of listening to some nutcase just call in, and Clint just went completely nuts on the guy. We were talking.
Martin Luther King was a Republican.
Yeah,
that set some people off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We actually got a couple bad pieces of email about that too.
Did we?
Yeah.
So, God forbid we tell the truth.
That was great radio.
We got that information from Alveda King, who is the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, on an article that she wrote on that topic. So she was probably completely wrong. I think those people who emailed were right.
Yeah, no, seriously.
And for Mr. Politics, who's still on the line, in a segment later on in the show, I'm actually gonna read a portion of a letter that Thomas Jefferson and John Adams submitted to John Jay, the American Peace Commissioners, to John Jay, dated 28 March 1786. So you might enjoy that. Just a side note.
Hey, Rooster, on top of being sick with pneumonia, at the show,
still have
we figured out you were viciously and violently attacked.
Yeah, I tried to look at an article you had on conservative outcry, and I wasn't able to find anything. So what happened?
Without making anyone who has soft ears turn off the radio right now or the computer, what happened?
I was hacked, and I'm not that savvy. My web host says, in short, I was hacked, and I was hacked badly. Everything on my server was affected.
It was rough, including our forums. And seriously, can you fix those? Because I have stuff I need to get. No, I'm kidding. You host those graciously, and I appreciate it.
It's almost. I've worked the last 4 days trying to fix everything. I think it'll be up tomorrow.
Yes, I'm guessing that you've worked nonstop.
Yeah, I'm just one guy. As much as I can, but why me?
Well, because obviously I'm just conservative. You obviously at conservativeoutcry.net, you proved a point that the left didn't like, and they decided it was time for you to be silenced. I know, because when I turned on Twitter that day, I saw the words Wolverine written on the wall, and I knew something was going on. Now, do you have a message for those hackers? And we're going to go into a break in a minute, but I want you to get your full message to those hackers out.
I can't, because you told me to be nice.
You are eloquent enough to pull this off without offending everybody.
And without making a direct threat.
Right, because I don't want to have to testify.
I don't know who hacked. I don't know who hacked my site. I'm assuming it's some left-wing troll, because a conservative just wouldn't do that. The thing that gets me is I offend everybody, not just. Yes, equally, as Clint will attest. And there's many a conservative out there that disagree with my positions as well. So why me?
Well,
why would some idiot that 6 months ago was probably banging his girlfriend underneath a cardboard blanket in Zuccotti Park have to attack?
Because for whatever reason, they're insulted with your opinion. Now, we've learned this before, and if it was the left, and I'm assuming it was the left, that's a straight-out assumption, but we've learned before that as long as you agree with them, you can say all you want, but as soon as you disagree and make a valid point, you get brought down.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. So to the idiot or idiots who hack my site, you're not going to silence me, and I dedicate my next post to them. I'm sorry?
Before we go, can you give us a nice loud Wolverines, nice and loud?
I couldn't do it right now, not with my my illness. This is about as loud as I can get.
Well, get the show, and if you guys are listening out there, conservativeoutcry.net, love him or hate him, he always makes a valid point. That's our good friend Rooster. Hey, Rooster, we're going to take a break, and then we get back. We're going to dive into the Middle East because we are running way behind on this show.
Okay.
Hey, take yourself, Rooster.
The Magic Dragon. That's my word to Clint.
Magic Dragon.
That is how you solve the Middle East problem. I could clear
the Chum Wagon.
Hey, you know what? We get yeah. So
you know
now,
those
first of all, you dated yourself, right? By calling it that.
And I'm not talking about the name of a bong either.
No, I know you're not. You're talking about the gunship. I know exactly what you're talking about. And you're dating yourself because that's the term used in Vietnam.
That's right.
I'm surprised
you know those big
the Jolly Green Giant.
I'm sorry?
I'm surprised you didn't say if they get in trouble, the Jolly Green Giant can come save them.
Yeah. You know those big testicles that hang off the back of like a truck?
Yeah, of course I do. I molded those. What are you talking about?
He was the test model.
Yeah, I did. How would I not know what those are?
Then all he had to do was make it bigger, and they went right to production.
If you live like all of them say like Sackhead Clint on them, it's kind of weird.
Well, I think Mr. Barack better find them somewhere, or he's going to lose the election just like Jimmy did.
Obama, that would be so horrible.
Yeah, that would be a shame. You know, I would be up all night crying. Hey, Russo, we appreciate it. We're going to take a break. I'm going to put you on hold. When we come back, we're going to get into the Middle East. Thank you for calling, Russo. Get the website back up, and to the D-bag that hacked this site, I'm really angry at you. Really.
Well, I'll just have to read my next post because I'm going to offend everybody in one post.
Well, I can't wait.
Except Peter. I'm not Peter.
You know what? I want to say something to the guy or gal or troll who hacked the website real quick. You know, I like how free speech applies only to those who agree with you, and that you want to silence those who don't agree with you. Cowardly, and you cloak yourself in the First Amendment while simultaneously trying to silence those who are exercising their own First Amendment rights who just happen to be in opposition with you. I welcome anybody with an opposite point of view to me to speak out, because I think good debate and good conversation is what this country was founded on. And how do we get better if we don't have those debates? And it's okay to get heated. It's okay to get angry. It's okay to disagree. But I would never want to silence somebody else's right to speak out, whether they agree with me or not. I don't care if you agree with me or not. A lot of people disagree with me. I'm totally okay with that. But the fact that you want to silence somebody else because you don't like what they have to say is cowardly. It's cowardly, and it's. I'm going to go off right there, so I'm going to go ahead and stop before I end up saying something poor.
Hey, Bruce, my last thought, and I'm going right to commercial. The only problem with your website?
If you got a business, that you didn't build that.
Not build that.
Yes. All right, guys. Hey, I didn't use the F word.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to mark this down on the calendar. Rooster from conservativeoutcry.net. Thanks, Rooster.
Okay, I'll be listening.
All right.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. We're fortunate enough to have our friend Vernessa do our news briefs. If you like her news briefs, she is a voiceover talent. Check out Platinum Vocal Cords. She has over 15 years radio and voiceover experience. Graduated Northwestern State University with a liberal arts degree. Don't let that scare you, folks. She is a true sackhead. please check her out. Again, that's PlatinumVocalCords.com. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sack Kids Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to HomefrontHugs.com. Tell them Sack Kids Radio sent you.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the wingnut leaders throughout the world to give our men and women of the armed forces a job, as well as all the anarchists, terrorists, and Occupy folks that give our men and women in uniform on the home front, firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and first responders, job security here in the States as well. So thank all you wingnuts out there. This is Sackhead Clint saying have a good day.
Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
3, 2.
I love how you're still doing the countdown. We discussed previously that it's completely unnecessary.
Hey, now welcome back our true professionals, Sean.
And welcome back to Sackheads Radio. I am Sean. At least that's what my driver's license says. And with me, as always, is the brains of the operation, my good friend Clinton. We're going to change gears a little bit now and get into the attack in Benghazi.
Is that the one with the beard?
Yep, you're the brains of the operation.
Hi, Benghazi.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. So the long and short, everyone knows, on September 11th, the embassy in Benghazi, Libya, was overrun by, well, they're saying it's just a random group of people. I don't believe so. There's also issues in Cairo. There's issues since. Sorry. And it's getting out of hand. It's all sparked from this film on YouTube called Innocence of Muslims.
No, it was not sparked by a stinking movie on YouTube.
Let's get into it. No, you know what? You know what it is? You talk.
No, I'm getting angry because the left said that all these things... No, go ahead. Let's give the news first, and then we'll talk about the causes of it.
All right. So the allegations are right now is that this video that was released in June that showed the Prophet Muhammad of the Muslim faith in a poor light. It showed him as a fraud, a womanizer, as a madman, and a lot of other things. And so that's being pegged as the catalyst as the cause of these attacks. Has nothing to do with our religious freedoms. And I was discussing it earlier today with a mutual friend of ours who said, hey, you have to keep in mind they can't understand why our government doesn't make that stop. Like their whole lives they've lived under these oppressive regimes, and the fact that something could be released and they can't say to the government, or the government doesn't stop it, something that's offensive to them, because in their country everything gets run through the government. And I agreed to a point. I said, I understand that, but they are attacking us, and these were coordinated. I don't care what anyone says. Everything I'm reading right now is showing that there was a coordination of these attacks. They were close to simultaneous between Cairo and Benghazi, Libya, and as a result, 4 Americans are dead, including the ambassador to Libya, 2 former Navy SEALs, and an information officer who was an Air Force veteran. And there's been fallout 6 different ways. I don't know which one you want to attack first. Do you want to attack the presidential fallout? Do you want to talk about the cause of it? It's up to you, because we can go either way. It's a mess no matter how we look at it. So,
look, there's these protests spread out. I think it's up to like 20 different countries across the Middle East right now. Some of them are peaceful, but the ones in Egypt and Yemen, Libya, Tunisia are violent protests. The compound, the U.S. Embassy compound in Egypt has been under attack by these militant protesters. The flag was ripped down in the courtyard, and the black Islamic flag was raised on U.S. soil in the compound. Not in the building itself wasn't overrun, but there's been fighting there for the last few days. In Libya, again, well, like you mentioned, we had 4 killed. Somehow these protesters or these extremists found out where the safe house was and ended up killing the ambassador. Ended up dying. They're saying by asphyxiation. I think that's kind of weird. And then 3 others. And then you have these violent protests in Yemen and Tunisia also. So, look, there are so many different ways we can go on this, but I want to give a history lesson real quick because I think it's important. I heard some commentary that, and it's been for the last few days, that it's a result of this video that was posted, and now we have the White House asking YouTube to review this video to see if it meets their standards or what. First of all, I have a problem with the government asking a private entity to look into something that has to do with free speech. But that's a separate argument in itself, because whether you agree with the video or not, in this country,
they have the right.
Somebody has a right to post that.
Right.
Whether I disagree with it, whether Sean disagrees with it, doesn't matter. In this country, they have a right to do that.
And it's not, listen, I'm not defending the guy who created the video itself or anything like that at all, and nor am I attacking it. The video is, for us anyhow, kind of a moot point. It was made by this guy, Sam Basile, as one of his many aliases. It was made down in Southern California. This guy is allegedly, because nobody still really knows who he is, he's had fraud issues. He's been arrested for narcotics use. There's allegations that he's Israeli. There's allegations that he's Egyptian. There's even to the point that, like we talked earlier, there may be an investigation by the LA Sheriff's Department.
Can we confirm that, or did they not return a call?
I'm not able to confirm it, but I've had a couple reports, and I have tried to make a call, and I haven't been able to.
They haven't called us back yet. I want to, before we get into that, I want to give the history about this real quick, just to give some perspective, and then we can go on a little bit about the movie. The whole thing here that I've heard is they're angry about this movie that came out in what was it?
June 23rd, it was released.
Okay, so it was released in June.
Yeah.
These protests.
2012.
This year. These protests were planned. They were coordinated attacks, and they began on September 11th.
Yes.
Wow, that's a shock.
Yeah.
So they're not. It's not spontaneous rage,
it took
people.
them a month and 3 quarters to get up.
Yeah. It's not spontaneous rage. Now, I want to remind people, we talked about this in one of our very first podcasts, which I think was like a 20-minute little podcast that we talked about.
We were so young.
We were so young, yeah, a couple months ago. We've been fighting Muslim extremists since the birth of our country. Back after the Revolutionary War, we had shipping that was going on in the Mediterranean and through the Strait of Gibraltar, and we had the area of the Barbary Coast, North Africa, which these pirates were operating out of what the current ports are, modern-day Algeria, Libya, and Tunisia. And what they were doing is they were attacking American and European shipping, and they would enslave people on board the vessel and sell them as slaves. By the way, I want reparations because I may be of European descent and American descent, obviously. I want reparations for slavery from these Muslim nations. I think that they should apologize for slavery.
In what year?
Like 1784, 1785, right around there. And so they were making war against us and enslaving our people and our trade. The United States was no longer under the naval protection of Great Britain. The Revolutionary War had ended, and at that time we had a treaty with France that they would protect shipping interests and so forth, so they were doing some of that in the region as well. Well, once we fell outside of that, we were truly an independent nation.
That's when France still had us set.
That's when France was awesome.
Yeah.
Now they suck. I want to read you part of a report from the American Peace Commissioners to John Jay. The American Peace Commissioners were John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, and this was dated 28 March 1786, and this is from the writings of Thomas Jefferson. I believe it's Volume 9, or the Thomas Jefferson Papers. I think there's also a copy in the Adams papers.
They believe you.
But I got this from Founders Early Access, the University of Virginia is the source, copyright 2009, by the rector and visitors of the University of Virginia. And what the letter says, it was written in Grosvenor Square, March 28, 1786, which is in London. And I'm not going to read the entire letter, but I want to read what I believe to be a key point. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson met with the ambassador from Tripoli, which was one of the pirate nations at the time in the Barbary Coast, who happened to be the ambassador to London. They were in London, and they had an opportunity to meet with them. And he said, and I'm quoting now, "We took the liberty to make some inquiries concerning the grounds of their pretensions," meaning the Barbary Coast pilots, the Muslims, "to make war upon the nations who had done them no injury, and observed that we considered all mankind as our friends, who had done us no wrong, nor had given us any provocation. The ambassador answered us that it was founded on the law of their great prophet, that it was written in the Quran that all nations who should not have acknowledged their authority were sinners, that it was their right and duty to make war upon them whenever they could be found, and to make slaves of all they could take as prisoners, and that every Mussulman, meaning Muslim, who should be slain in battle was sure to go to paradise, that it was a law that the first who boarded an enemy's vessel should have one slave more than his share with the rest, which operated as an incentive to the most desperate valor and enterprise, that it was the practice of their corsairs to bear down upon a ship, for each sailor to take a dagger in each hand and another in his mouth and leap on board, which so terrified their enemies, terror, that's weird, that very few ever stood against them, that he verily believed the devil assisted his countrymen, were almost always successful." Now, this was an official letter sent again to John Jay in 1786, and I believe John Adams wrote it, but it was from Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, and the reason I believe John Adams wrote it is the letter begins, "Sir, soon after the arrival of Mr. Jefferson in London, we had a conference with the ambassador of Tripoli at his house." So we've been fighting this since the inception of our country. Now, we had a Treaty of Tripoli in 1787, and in that treaty, and this is something that a lot of secularists love to point to, but the treaty indicated that the U.S. had no quarrel with Muslim religion, in essence, and that the U.S. was in no way a Christian nation. Secularists point to that all the time, saying, "See, our founders didn't think we were a Christian nation." Well, but even the most honest secularists, I believe, have to agree that it's very conciliatory in tone, and the U.S., the pirates were trying to get the Americans to pay tribute, to pay a bribe, basically, to stop these attacks, basically bow to their authority in doing so. And the Americans, we couldn't afford it at the time. We didn't have a huge navy. We couldn't protect our shipping. Our people, our citizens, were getting enslaved by these people, by these terrorists.
Is that because we didn't have enough money for the Whiskey Revolution time? Sorry.
No, it was later. Actually, right around the same time. So this tribute reached close to 10% of our national budget. That's a huge percentage just going to these pirates. And long story short, in 1805, Marines took Tripoli after they crossed the desert from Egypt, and we kicked their ass. So Francis Scott Key actually wrote a song about it, and I would like to read one of the verses here. You know Francis Scott Key?
Yes. No,
yep.
He wrote a couple big songs.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think of one right now off the top of my head. The
bar hang.
Take me out to the ball. No, it's not that. It's not that. The national anthem.
Okay.
So this guy's kind of
my
a big deal.
Was "We Will Rock You," but then I thought that was cool.
So here's part of the verse of the song he wrote after the Marines took Tripoli, and quoting, and pale beamed the crescent, its splendor obscured. The crescent obviously being the symbol used quite frequently in Islam and in that region of the world at the time, by the light of the star-bangled flag of our nation, where each flaming star gleamed, a meteor of war, and the turban head bowed to the terrible glare. Now, that's lyrics written, granted they're not the most poetic, but those are lyrics written by Francis Scott Key after the event. So again, this is nothing new, folks. This isn't. They didn't attack us because we put a video out. They've been attacking us unprovoked since our country began, and that's something that I don't know why the people in the media don't bring. I know why they don't bring it up.
Right.
But even conservatives in the media, hey, well, I think it's the video. Well, they say no. Well, they don't like us anyways. But okay, why not? Nobody ever points this far back and says they didn't like us before we were even really a nation.
The people that hide behind it to make extreme acts, it goes back to minimum way before 1784, I'm sure in other cases, but in our case it was 1784. So then you flash forward, and here we are 2012, and on September 11th, the 11th anniversary of 9/11, it started Benghazi, well, is when the attack started, but before that, at 6 a.m., and this was on the East Coast, so I can't do the math that quick, the U.S. Embassy in Cairo must have caught wind that something was coming because they released this statement. The Embassy of the United States in Cairo condemns the continuing efforts by misguided individuals to hurt the religious feelings of Muslims.
Ouch.
As we condemn efforts to offend believers of all religions, today, the 11th anniversary of September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks on the United States, Americans are honoring our patriots and those who serve our nation as the fitting response to the enemies of democracy. Respect for religious beliefs is a cornerstone of American democracy. We firmly reject the actions by those who abuse the universal right of freedom of speech to hurt the religious beliefs of others.
Whoa. Did you say abuse the universal right of freedom of speech?
Yes.
Huh. How do you abuse a God-given right? You exercise your rights too much?
So that was before the attack.
No, hang on a second. How do you abuse your rights? How do you overly exercise your rights according to the government? Because this is the government our government, or a portion of our government, who's releasing this statement, correct?
Yeah, no, this is the American Embassy in Cairo.
So
this is the embassy of the Obama administration in Cairo.
So how does somebody exercise their rights too much? How do they abuse or overly exercise the...
I haven't a clue, but we're going to move on because we could ask yourself that question.
I'm like seeing red right now. I seriously want to... I have a vein popping out of my forehead.
There be a time. The attack was about mid-afternoon on the East Coast here, and that's when the attack occurred, and the 4 individuals lost their lives when the embassy was overrun. And in a Twitter message just after that, the U.S. Embassy stood by their statement. This is on Twitter. The American Embassy in Cairo sends a message on Twitter that it still stands for their initial statement. Quote, unquote, this morning's condemnation, parentheses, issued before the protest began. They're still calling it a protest, even though a protest and people dying usually don't go hand in hand, still stands, as does our condemnation of unjustified breach of the embassy. Unjustified breach of the embassy resulted in 4 deaths of Americans. That's not a protest, first of all. Second of all, you're still standing by your original statement and apologizing for people exercising their First Amendment right. And this is from the administration. Now, this is a 12-hour gap, 12 and a half hours. So at some point, the administration must have caught wind of the initial statement, the attack, and then this Twitter message. Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah.
Nothing was done. And then, let's see, we'll move on. At 10 o'clock at night, East time, the Obama administration disavows embassy statement. The statement, quotes again, and this is from Politico, the statements of the embassy Cairo were not cleared by Washington, does not reflect the views of the United States government. So my first question is, who the hell's in charge? If you're going to make a statement as the embassy of the United States, don't you think it has to get clearance? Or do you're just allowed as, like, if you're the head of that embassy?
I don't know. I honestly don't know how, but I would think if you're making a policy statement that you would want to check with your administration, I would think, but I have no idea how those rules work.
So, and then there's been a couple videos, and we're going to play some clips here from each different ones, and then Carney made a couple statements, and then...
he's so awesome. I like him.
He is just... he's like that kid who sat in the back of the class that nobody liked. He always raised the hands when the teacher asked if anyone had one.
You know what? Close to that. He's like that guy that stands behind the podium at press conferences that nobody likes.
So at 10:10 on Eastern time on Tuesday, the 11th, that's when the Obama administration disavowed the embassy statement. At 10:24, Mitt Romney released a statement criticizing the administration's response. And he said, I'm outraged by the attacks on the American diplomat missions in Libya and Egypt and by the death of an American consulate worker. At the time, they only knew of the one. It's disgraceful that the Obama administration's first response was not to condemn the attacks on our diplomatic missions, but to sympathize with those who waged the attacks.
Well, you know, Romney took a lot of heat for making a comment like that. Look, the man's running for president of the United States, and I'll grant that he does not have the security briefs and the read-ins that the president of the United States has. However, the man has a right to comment on this issue. He's running for president of the United States. He's running to be able to lead, and he has to be able to understand this is going on. I would think that it would have made him look weak, non-presidential, like he's not willing to step up.
I agree.
Look, I think any American can step up and talk about this and even condemn a current administration's actions. So the fact that a presidential candidate did it, I have no issue with whatsoever. I mean, he's taken heat because he's the Republican candidate, bottom line. But if a private citizen stood up and said, hey, you know what? I condemn this action, and Mr. President, I disagree with how you handle it. Nothing would be, well, something would probably be said because you disagree with the president. You'd be like a racist or something. But so I think Mitt Romney was okay in commenting on the situation. I would have been disappointed had he not commented.
Right, and I agree with you. But, of course, less than an hour and a half later, the Obama campaign, now this is in the White House, came out, and this is from Ben LaBolt, B-O-L-T, LaBolt, the spokesperson for the Obama campaign, sends an email out to reporters, We are shocked that at a time that the United States of America is confronting the tragic death of one of our diplomatic officers in Libya, Governor Romney would choose to launch a political attack. You know, I'm not. And I don't think, like you just said, I don't think it's wrong. I think if it was the other way around, you better believe his campaign would have said something right, wrong, or indifferent. If he agreed, if it was Obama running and it was Romney in office, if he agreed, he would have said he agreed. If he didn't, he still would have made a statement.
Absolutely.
And it was a statement that has to be made 2 months before an election, or a month and 3/4, however you want to look at it. And I agree, the president didn't come out and say anything sooner. He disavowed it, 10 o'clock at night. But that's something, where I thought he should have been on TV relatively quickly, one way or the other, saying, hey, this is what happened, this is what we know. We're not going to we're not going to sacrifice our own people. We will not stand for them being attacked and assaulted. Never mind the fact that it was an attack on American soil. People seem to forget that the embassies are American soil. It doesn't matter where they are.
Which is an act of war.
And
the fact that the Egyptian government didn't come out and condemn it.
Yeah, and so that's the
weird.
Politics side of that. So there's that. I thought the president was relatively weak until he got called out on it, and then all of a sudden he tried to muscle up, and it was a little too late. The liberal left is going to attack Romney for saying something because they don't think he has the right to say anything just because it's not their statement. And, that's just not true. So we're going to take a break. We come back. We're going to talk about the attacks, the signs, some of the signs that they may have been coordinated. And then that's going to be it. So we'll be back in a moment here on Sackheads Radio.
Sackheads Radio.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. We're fortunate enough to have our friend Vanessa do our news briefs. If you like her news briefs, she is a voiceover talent. Check out Platinum Vocal Cords. and she has over 15 years radio and voiceover experience. Graduated Northwestern State University with a liberal arts degree. Don't let that scare you, folks. She is a true sackhead. Please check her out. Again, that's PlatinumVocalCords.com. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to HomefrontHugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank all the wingnut leaders throughout the world to give our men and women of the armed forces a job, as well as all the anarchists, terrorists, and Occupy folks that give our men and women in uniform on the home front, firefighters, law enforcement personnel, and first responders, job security here in the States as well. So thank all you wingnuts out there. This is Sackhead Clint saying have a good day.
Due to the graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
3, 2.
I love how you're still doing the countdown. We discussed previously that it's completely unnecessary.
Hey, now welcome back our true professionals, Clint and Sean.
And welcome back to Sackheads Radio Show. The phone number, by the way, if you want to jump in, it's 347-205-9399. I don't know how many calls we're going to get to because we still have a ton to cover. So we were talking about the attack in Libya on the embassy and in Cairo. 4 are dead, including the ambassador, an intel officer, and 2 former Navy SEALs who were working private security. They were doing some intelligence gathering or something to that effect. Either way, 4 Americans are dead. And the White House was really kind of quiet, in my opinion, for a while. Then they came out and made a couple loose statements. And then Obama came out and finally gave a press conference, and Hillary was there. We have 2 clips. I'm going to play both. The first one's a minute and a half. But listen to how hard his statement is, considering this is Obama.
Good morning. Every day, all across the world, American diplomats and civilians work tirelessly to advance the interests and values of our nation. Often, they are away from their families. Sometimes they brave great danger. Yesterday, 4 of these extraordinary Americans were killed in an attack on our diplomatic post in Benghazi. Among those killed was our ambassador, Chris Stevens, as well as Foreign Service Officer Sean Smith. We are still notifying the families of the others who were killed. And today, the American people stand united in holding the families of the 4 Americans in our thoughts and in our prayers. The United States condemns in the strongest terms this outrageous and shocking attack. We're working with the government of Libya to secure our diplomats. I've also directed my administration to increase our security at diplomatic posts around the world. And make no mistake, we will work with the Libyan government to bring to justice the killers who attacked our people. Since our founding, the United States has been a nation that respects all faiths. We reject all efforts to denigrate the religious beliefs of others. But there is absolutely no justification to this type of senseless violence. None.
So he kind of walked the line. He apologized a little bit.
Of course, because that's what he does.
For the First Amendment, and he got a little bit of tough talk in there. The fact that he's working with the Libyan government does not make me feel better. And then there was Jay Carney had a press conference, and this is on the 12th. This is a day afterwards. Carney had a press conference on the 14th, and he was asked about the attacks. And I just want to throw this in there real quick because it's interesting to me. And the reporter brings it up. I don't know his name, and I apologize for that. but about the security on 9/11.
But the anniversary of 9/11 would be a time that you would want to have extra security around diplomats and military posts?
Well, as you know, we are very vigilant around anniversaries like 9/11. The President has always briefed and brought us to speed on all the precautions being taken. But let's be clear. But
being very vigilant are different things.
Jay, let's be clear. These protests were in reaction to a video that had spread to the region.
At Benghazi?
We certainly don't know. We don't know otherwise. We have no information to suggest that it was a pre-planned attack. The unrest we've seen around the region has been in reaction to a video that many Muslims find offensive. And while the violence is reprehensible and unjustified, it is not a reaction to the 9/11 anniversary that we know of or to U.S. policy.
The group around
Now,
tough shit.
Now,
the Muslims find it offensive. Tough shit. We have free speech in this country. This person put this video out. I don't agree with the video. I've seen it. I don't agree with it. Doesn't mean this guy doesn't have a right to put it out in this country. And if they've seen it and they don't like it, too bad.
Well, but
Jay Carney, they're not attacking us because of a freaking video. Shut the front door. They're attacking us.
All right. No, we've already.
I'm so pissed off right now.
Us, and it's going to be spun, in which he did. He is such a weasel. I can't stand Jay Carney. I really can't say Jay Carney. One of the reasons why I want Obama out of the office is so that Carney's out with him. But again, he says we don't really know any other reason. You don't know the reason to begin with why they're attacks. So
exactly. So why are you
saying
commenting on it?
Video, but then 2 minutes later you're saying you don't know any other reason. Well, why are you assuming this reason is the video, other than people there who are probably being paid to say so are saying that's the reason?
And now we find out that these attacks. It's not a protest. It's an attack.
And this was yesterday.
These attacks
were coordinated.
How many months out? And you had no idea. So is your intelligence inept? Are you not able to gather intelligence? Is this administration so inept that with these coordinated protests over how many different countries, attacks at four separate countries, you can't pick up that that's coming, and you're going to blame it on a video? Oh no, it's spontaneous. Are you really that far out of touch, Obama administration?
It is word that the two former, and I think both of them are former Navy SEALs that were on the security detail, the intel gathering detail that were killed, were ambushed in their vehicle on their way back to the embassy. So don't say it wasn't coordinated, because they wouldn't have been ambushed. They would have been behind the crowd. Nobody would have saw it, and they either would have.
How'd they know when they were coming?
Yeah.
How'd they know what they were driving, who they were?
Right. And it happened almost the same. And it is intentional, and I don't care what you say.
Of course it is.
It may not be a specific nation. You know, I've heard talk that maybe it's because of Egypt and Libya that the Muslim Brotherhood has a foothold in both.
Oh, that's a shock. Muslim Brotherhood's in charge of Egypt right now.
Yes.
That's who the government is.
To do with it. The point is instead of finding a reason for the problem, why don't you just solve it, and then we'll worry about that afterwards. And my question, the reporter brought up a great question. You knew 9/11 was around the corner. They're in places that are in turmoil. They don't have good control. The people are there's so many sects and tribes and groups. You didn't increase security prior to 9/11, and I know what it is you didn't want to make it look bad, like we don't trust you, we're trying to be your embassy, and we don't want to bring in all these soldiers and protect our people. It's an image thing. Ooh, somebody might get a little upset. Well, the simple fact of the matter is we still are at war with terrorists. Al-Qaeda is still active. There are people all over this world, especially in the Middle East, that for whatever reason, I know the reasons because we're free, but they want to blow us up, and you did nothing. But you're going to blame a video as the cause for this? Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining, you little weasel. It drives me insane. And by the way, when I said Obama was strong, that was sarcasm. So if anyone didn't get that, get it. It was sarcasm. So now I want to go back and play the rest of Obama's clip and just see the parallels sometimes.
You going to take your Obama 2012 sticker down?
The world must stand together to unequivocally reject these brutal acts.
The UN.
Already, many Libyans have joined us in doing so. And this
America
attack will not
stand
break
together.
the bonds between the United States and Libya.
We don't have a bomb.
Security personnel fought back against the attackers alongside Americans.
Until they
helped
were out of
some
sight.
of our diplomats find safety, and they carried Ambassador Stevens' body to the hospital, where we tragically learned that he had died.
Which is weird, because I saw the video of them carrying him, and it's the still shots, I should say. First of all, if you do see him there, graphic, and I apologize. They were carrying him to a hospital like they carried the pilot and the Black Hawk down in Somalia. They were touting a trophy. They weren't trying to get him help. He ended up there because I'm sure eventually somebody kind of stepped in. But simple fact of the matter is, they were raising him like a flag. He's the ambassador. We stand against everything a lot of people in the Middle East hate. Not all, but a lot of people. And that was their trophy. And you're going to sit there and say that they were carrying him to the hospital. I mean, you just spun this so many different ways. It's not even funny. I am so furious at this administration for not, and then talk about, our partner with Libya and the international community. Again, you turn into the UN. You want some sort of UN resolution. It wasn't an attack on anything but an American soil, on an American embassy. They went after us because of our freedom, and you are finding different ways to make it not about that, and it pisses me off. It's absolutely ridiculous. Sorry, I took a second.
No.
God. I mean, does he even get it?
No.
It's almost just, it's like he's in the utopia world that he wants everyone else to live in, and he stays inside of it so he doesn't have to get out.
I think the other problem is, and I don't know this for sure, but I think the other problem is that if he admits that he failed, if he admits that he failed to provide adequate protection, if he admits that, hey, they weren't carrying him to the hospital, they were parading him around the street with this white shirt up towards the top part of his body and him just kind of bent over there, that it would outrage more Americans and he would have a more difficult time controlling the situation or spinning it as, oh, well, it's just a protest and, he died of smoke inhalation. I don't buy that. I believe he was murdered. And especially I've seen the pictures you're talking about. The way they're carrying him around does not look like they're trying to get him to a hospital, like they're worried about his well-being, like they're trying to prevent further injury or get him to an ambulance.
And here's the amazing part, and what a lot of people don't know is, before he was the official ambassador to the new Libyan government, he was working with the rebels, who I'm sure were in this mob that killed him, and I'm talking about the ambassador, to get rid of Gaddafi and to help them and aid them in getting rid of Gaddafi in their revolution. And then they turn around and they kill Ambassador Stevens, the same man who was risking his life against, at the time, a better organized military government. And it's not like the Gaddafi regime didn't know what was going on. They just knew that if they touched him, they would be in trouble. So they kind of had to stay out of the way, or they thought. So it's completely gutless. He was gutless on this. And you can say a whole bunch of things, but we talked that night. He should have been on the air from the Oval Office. It should have been interrupted because this is a big deal. They're trying to downplay it, but it's a big deal. And since then, it's gotten worse. We've had military bases being attacked just
today.
Stop.
Today.
Base was overrun today. There's been other. Tunisia's starting to protest. Kuwait, who they must have a short-term memory as to how effective we are as a military anyhow, because we seem to get Iraqis out of them quick.
We can show them. That'd be cool.
We saved their bacon pretty much and ran the Iraqis out when they got invaded, and now they're sitting there. And I'm not saying it's the whole country, but there are these groups. And I'm mad at the people that don't believe it and understand what we're about for not standing up against them.
I'm mad that we keep giving them money.
Yeah, well, I'm furious.
Especially Egypt. Egypt relies on American tourism to survive. They are so economically stunted that, could you imagine if I mean, why would you want to go there as an American? I wouldn't. And Egypt is one of those countries that, everybody says that you should go see before you die. The pyramids, and so forth. Why would I want to go there as an American, knowing that kind of sentiment is there? I wouldn't even be able to go to my own embassy in an emergency to be safe. Why would I go to Egypt as an American?
Well, and a lot of people are saying that he died, Ambassador Stevens died of smoke inhalation and asphyxiation. You look at his body, and he's swollen and bruised. They strangled him. They killed him. It's not. They didn't.
I don't know how he died. I believe he was murdered.
I believe he was murdered.
I
believe
he was
get
murdered.
That close and go, oh my goodness! After we attacked this embassy and lit it on fire, this poor man can't breathe. Let's get him to the hospital fast. We didn't mean to go that far. You overran another country's embassy, got over the wall, got through the courtyard, got to their safe house.
Found out where the safe house was.
Another time where the safe house was.
And then got there, and then it's, sir, let me help you. We just need to get to the safe house to make sure that you're okay.
In Egypt and Libya, the response from the local government, local military, local police was very, very slow. And they showed up eventually because they had to. They had to show up eventually.
Well, Obama, and I will give President Obama credit for this. He did call and have words with the Egyptian leadership, and now there are Egyptian troops who are protecting the U.S. Embassy and keeping protesters at bay. So he did step up and do that. And now,
yeah, but
go ahead.
Too little, too late, because the Marines were already there.
Well,
the U.S. Marines fast team out of Spain was sent down to protect him. And now if I was in the embassy, I'd feel great.
Right, but what I'm saying is he did that, and so now there are Egyptian troops there. Look, I'm not defending the man. I think he should have had a different reaction. But in this case, I think that he at least did something. Now, why are we still giving money to these governments?
I have no idea. I don't know why it wasn't shut off immediately. And it's only going to get worse. A lot of people are pointing to the Arab Spring.
That was so great. The Muslim Brotherhood took over. That was so awesome. The Muslim Spring. It sounds so nice.
It's only going to get worse. And the problem is we see these countries as countries, border-wise, and the people that live there don't, for the most part. They see themselves in whatever tribe they want to roll with that day. And I read a story, and I don't know who it was, but it was out of Afghanistan, and I forget the author's name. But he was talking about how, while he was there was his interpreter and his kind of like bodyguard guy. And this is right after we went to Afghanistan, and he's riding around with him. And one day they see this guy, we'll just call him Bob because I know his name, and Bob is fighting against the Taliban. Stupid Taliban, hate the Taliban, blah, 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 got to take him down. No less than a week later, they see Bob again. Bob's driving a truck with Taliban prisoners for the Taliban in the back, and the trailer pretty much says, hey, Bob, what's going on? Last week you were against these guys. And he's like, yeah, but they pay me more money now. And that was pretty much it. He's like, thank God I was smart enough to take it, or I'd be in the back of this truck. And that's a lot of times what you're dealing with. The dollar sign, because they've lived in such poverty, it has nothing to do sometimes with even religion, in my opinion. It's just a group of people looking for a reason to do insane things. They hide behind their religion, and they've done it for years.
But a lot of them are true believers. A lot of them are true believers.
No, and that's the thing, is you have the
and that's what makes them so dangerous.
Yeah, they'll die at all costs. So you'll have your group of true believers. You'll have the ones that are bought off easily by the true believers oftentimes, because the true believers, the core groups, have a lot of money, and they hold a lot of power, and they have the dollar sign of fear, if you will, where they scare these people into doing whatever they want. You have the weak-minded people that are led by these true believers who believe everything that they say, and you'll have paradise if you become a martyr. And I know some people who listen to our show get upset at me for saying this. I kind of do feel bad for your Muslim believer who sits over here and is like, yeah, I go to mosque like once a month, and then I work, and then I really love this country, and if I had my choice, I guess I wouldn't go to mosque anymore. But over there, it's not like that, and they're insane. They are these groups of people are absolutely insane. They hide behind religion, and they don't care what country you're from, as long as you're with them or you're with them. And if you're against them, they're going to do awful things to you.
I don't think they hide behind it. I think that that's what they believe their teachings are, and that they are violent jihadist extremists, and they are extremists, and they're so wrapped up in that's what their belief system is, and they hate those who are different, who are non-believers, the infidel, the us. and they are dangerous. But the governments in these countries, Muslim Brotherhood scares me, and they're now in charge of Egypt, and awesome. But they don't do anything for it, and we give them money.
Yeah,
why are we giving them money? You know, before when Egypt was a true ally, and there was a dictator in there, but guess what? He cooperated with us. He helped us and Israel. We were able to work with that. Now we don't have that. Why are we giving this money? We're already in a hole ourselves. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you know, people are going to say, "Oh, you just don't understand Middle East politics." And you know what? I understand that money is going to a country that has a government that hates us, and our embassies are being attacked, and we have people being killed. And guess what? I don't want to give them money.
Yeah.
Why should we give them our tax dollars? We have enough issues here at home.
And, you know, this brings me back to Israel. People wonder why Israel may have a little itchy trigger finger when it comes to people who are trying to go after them. This is why. They live in such a volatile place.
I'll tell you what, stand by, because if Obama gets another four years, Israel is. You know that he chose not to meet with Netanyahu? No, what are you talking about? The White House denied that actually happened.
But he did go on Letterman.
Who did?
So he was in the
Netanyahu?
No, the president.
Oh, well, the president didn't deny to meet with.
Netanyahu was there, and they could have had a meeting, but he chose not to do it and went. And I know he said he'd never turn it down, and it was a scheduling conflict, and they'll reschedule because he took a lot of heat from people in the media for not doing it.
Oh, there was a scheduling conflict.
Oh, yeah, it was a scheduling conflict.
Oh, well, he had to go do Letterman or Leno, or who did he do?
Letterman.
Oh, yeah, you have to be able to do that. Hey, you know what? It's re-election time. You're campaigning. You can't talk about silly things like foreign affairs.
Your closest ally says to you, "Hey, I'm going to swing through town. Any chance we can catch a beer?"
Yeah, but that's not his closest ally in his opinion. Right?
Well, it should be one of them, right?
It should be.
We talked about this.
But we have. But he doesn't view Israel.
Go over a few things.
He does not view Israel as our closest ally.
No, he doesn't.
So why would he meet with them? He should. The American president should, but he does not view Israel as our closest ally, so he would not do that.
It's just sad, and it's sad that they're playing the political. They yelled at Romney for making this political right off the bat, but they've two steps to gain politically ever since, and they still haven't. Yeah, they've come out and condemned the people, but they haven't come out and said, "Hey," like Romney did. And I'll play his speech real quick because we only have a minute left. I'm not going to play a speech. We're not going to have time.
You know what?
They didn't come out and say, "Hey, what we do in this country with our free speech is that person's right, and that's how we live in this country. And if you're going to use that as a reason to attack us, then we're going to respond tenfold."
You know what? Look,
because we're going to defend our Constitution that this was made
in the USA.
The rights of.
Wait, you can say that this is not the view of the American government. In this country, like you said, we have individual liberties. People can say what they want. This one individual made this video and felt this way. This is not the opinion of the United States government, but we protect all speech, even your speech here. That's what you say. And then if they attack us, guess what? As President of the United States, I condemn these attacks. My heart is with the victims. Mm-hmm. Our soldiers were attacked. We have one of our ambassadors killed. We're coming for you.
Yeah. We're not going to rest till every single one.
We're coming for you. And government, guess what? Since you haven't helped Egypt, guess what? Since you haven't helped and you didn't denounce this right away.
Money's gone.
Stand by. Oh, wait, all your electronics are jammed? I'll talk to you in about 20 seconds, or maybe I won't.
Right.
Because there's something incoming. I mean,
this is going to get worse. I bet you we'll talk about this next week. Hopefully next week I can get a little info on the SO's investigation.
SO, what's
try on it?
Sheriff's Office?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't know the reporter lingo?
I guess I don't know. Look, I'm really curious where this is going to go. We'll be watching these events very closely this week. If things get a little too heated, we may have to pop up with like a midweek segment.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Something.
And it is going to get worse.
This was a pretty good show. We had a good mix of stuff. Would have liked to have talked about the Middle East more. We got kind of sidetracked a little bit. What do you think?
I think it was a great show. I had a lot of fun. at the beginning. And then, talking about this got me all fired up.
We should have talked about this at first.
Yeah, we should have done this earlier and got it out of the way. Thank you to all of our callers who participated, everyone in the chat room tonight. Check us out, sackheadsradio.com. We're on Facebook /sackheadsradio. We're on Twitter @sackheads. We have our Stitcher application, which is on the right side of our page. When you go to it, you can email us, fanmail@sackheadsradio.com, put up a smoke signal.
That's a lot of stuff.
Carrier pigeon. Hold on, I'm not done.
Don't forget to send us a photograph.
Yeah, send a photograph of you in front of the Constitution. You'll get a signed Sackheads Radio picture sent to you.
September 17th?
So by September 17th. No. You screwed me up. By October 1st. Get it out by October 1st. We'll see you next Friday night at the same time. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Constitution. 225 years old this year.
Birthday, our friend Constitution.
Our friend? What are you talking about? I don't even know what you're saying right now. What does this even mean? I'm so lost. What just happened?